Hello Whovians and welcome to the main channel. Welcome back to Doctor Who discussions yet again. I'm still sorry for Apple listeners because I don't know what Apple are doing with the logo. They need to fix that. But we are back. Now we are back to the interviews like I did on the 3rd channel and on the 8th channel. The all complicated Tom Mason stuff that you don't really need to know right now. But we are here with a very special guest. Now, when I say special guest, I really mean special guest. She's best known as Ace, the companion from the 80s. It's the one and only Sophie Aldred.
Hello, Tom. What a lovely welcome. Thank you. Hello, everybody.
You're welcome. So, with Doctor Who, as being the thing you were in, because Doctor Who had been around longer than that, how did you get into Doctor Who?
Well, my agent put me up for 3 episodes, actually. She put me up because she saw on the cast breakdowns, you know, agents get these sort of breakdowns of who various people want, and they fit their clients to who, you know, who's on the brief. Well, she saw that they were looking for somebody who could ride a motorbike, and who could play a 16-year-old. And even though I was 24 at the time, I looked quite young for my age. So she put me up for it. And then I went along for an audition. And as I said, it was for 3 episodes of Doctor Who. It was for a story called Ray and the Bannermen, which was set on Barry Island in Wales. But little did I know that they were also casting for the next story, Dragonfire, and they were also looking for a potential companion to go forward for, you know. So it was very exciting because I'd never been near a TV studio, and I got the part.
And have you ever seen Doctor Who before you got this?
Yeah, I'd seen it growing up because in those days, I'm so old that there were only, 2 channels when I was very young. So there were literally, and you could only watch TV for certain times in the day. So yes, everybody watched Doctor Who on a Saturday afternoon. It was a classic thing you did as a family. You sat down together and everybody watched Doctor Who. So I can't remember Patrick Troughton. I don't know whether we actually had a TV at that point or not, but I certainly remember John Pertwee. I remember Katie Manning's character, Jo Grant. I remember Liz Sladen's character, Sarah Jane Smith. And that's what I grew up with. So yes, I'd certainly seen it as a child. In fact, my mum had to stop me watching Doctor Who when I was little because I got nightmares because of Cybermen. I was very, very scared of Cybermen. Not Daleks so much, it was Cybermen for me. And then when I got this audition, I didn't really know that it was still going, Doctor Who. I hadn't watched it for a long time. I'd seen a few of Peter Davidson's, I think, but I missed the whole of Colin Baker. So I was kind of quite surprised it was still going.
Yeah. And then since you got the role, was it fun being Ace? Was it as fun as it looked on screen?
Oh, it was amazing. It was just brilliant. I'd never, as I said, never been in a TV studio before, so it was me dipping my toe into the world of TV and filming. And I loved it. I loved the process of filming itself. And I loved the people I was working with. I loved the scripts. I loved my character. It was an amazing opportunity for me.
And then because you had been cast in this big show, had your life changed? Did it like become something completely different to what your life was before Doctor Who?
No, nothing changed. I mean, don't forget, this is the era before mobile phones, before social media. So the only way that people knew about me was when I did the odd interview for a newspaper. And so yes, I travelled to TV Centre on the Tube. I lived in a housing association flat in Lewisham with a few friends of mine. And actually, I wasn't earning that much money because I'd never worked for the BBC before. And they used to do, I don't know whether they still do this thing, where you got a set fee depending on how many times you'd worked for them. So I'd never worked for them before. And in fact, I remember my first payment, my first week's work, if I took off the tax and the national insurance and the agent's fee, I was actually earning less than I was doing the previous job, which was being on an equity minimum wage as a chorus member. So I mean, it didn't change my life in that way, but the way it has changed my life is that here I am. I mean, that was 1987, right? Here I am in 2022, still talking about it and still being just as in love with the whole world of Doctor Who as I ever was then. And also being able to sort of derive an income from it for all those years as well.
And with it being what it is, there was so I love Doctor Who, if you couldn't tell. And
yes, I can see behind you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love watching fan versions, like when they make their own. And surprisingly, out of the blue, you were involved in Doctor Who Velocity. How did that come about? Because that was just blew my mind.
Well, I believe that everyone needs to be given a chance. And if I'm available and if I've got some time and if it sort of looks like something fun to do, I'll do it. And it's always an adventure. I love meeting new people. I love doing stuff that's going to make a difference to people. And so, yeah, that's why, really.
Was it fun to do? Because it seemed like a fun project, because it's like nothing that you've seen before, because it's an American who like their like Doctor Who's British, but it's an American, so it's a new take on the whole character. Was that a fun concept?
Yeah, I also love when fans get involved in thinking of new ideas and new worlds and new things. Because let's face it, after all these years, Ace is pretty much, she's done a lot, and it's great to have new input and new ideas. So it was very good to see how somebody else's take on the character.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this for a while now, but Sylvester McCoy was very famous for playing the spoons. And the question is, can you play the spoons? Have you ever learned from Sylvester himself?
I've had a go. Yeah, I wouldn't like to say I'm a master of the spoons by any means. I mean, he's the true guru of spoon playing. But yeah, I've watched him. I've learned from the master, or not the master, but you know what I mean, the Doctor.
Yeah, because the master's evil. You wouldn't want to learn from him.
No, I wouldn't want to learn how to play the spoons from the master.
No, his spoon will probably have lasers involved.
Exactly.
Now, since you no longer are Ace in the physical TV medium, you now Ace in a whole new light. You are entertaining people on bus journeys, car journeys, on the A14, on the M6, listening to audios. How did you get involved in Big Finish?
Well, not long after the show was cancelled, to our great sadness, Sylvester and I were asked by a friend of ours, Bill Baggs, if we would like to do some audio adventures with him. And I'd worked with him on a series called The Stranger, which was a sort of Doctor Who-ish offshoot video project that he did with Colin and Nicola. And I'd had such fun doing those with all sorts of people who are now involved in making the program itself, that I'd become very good friends with Bill. And I thought, yeah, that sounds really good fun. So he'd commissioned some audio scripts. And I remember one of the first ones was by a writer called Mark Gatiss, whoever's heard of him. And we'd record them in somebody's damp basement in, I can't quite remember where it was, but that's how we got started with the audios. And then Bill got his knuckles rapped by the BBC because he was doing these audios without a license from the BBC, and they were rather, well, the characters were called the Professor and Ace, and they said, you can't really do this. It's a bit close to the Doctor and Ace. So he went, oh, all right, it's a fair cop. But by that time, people like Gary Russell and Jason Haig-Ellery at Big Finish, the format had been proven by BBV, it's called, who incidentally is the 30th anniversary, I think, around that of BBV this year, this year. So yes, it's 30 years ago. I can't believe it. We were doing those. Anyway, so Big Finish. Yeah, Big Finish did what Bill didn't. And they went to the BBC and they said, nobody else really is doing Doctor Who at the moment, especially not on audio. Can we do it? Can we buy the license from you? And they said, yeah, all right. Because I think by that time they were thinking of the film rights and the sort of screen market rather than audio. So they gave Big Finish the audio rights, and the rest is history. Yeah,
and it's now been multi-platformed. It's like so popular. They're always thing, and I think it was in 2020 that Big Finish had got a world record. And what was that like when you had received this, that you were part of a world record?
Oh, it's amazing. Yes, I've even got a little plaque somewhere, a little a thing to put in a frame that says I'm part of this world record breaking achievement. Oh, it's amazing and well deserved, I would say. But I mean, I've got very little to do with it, I guess. You know, I turn up and I read my lines and play the character of Ace. But the people behind it, particularly Jason, and people like Gary initially, Nick Briggs, David Richardson, John Ainsworth in the early days, all those brilliant directors, Ken Bentley, we work a lot with, Samuel Clements. I mean, they're the ones who really, and also not forgetting our studio engineer for many, many years, Toby, who he's been just like dedicated to Big Finish for years and years and years. So it's all those people really who do the hard work. We just turn up and have fun.
You have the fun job and they have the hard job.
Exactly, yeah.
And now, what was it like working with Sylvester McCoy, as he's such a big man?
Oh, it's been one of the great joys of my life to have met and worked with Sylvester. Really, we hit it off straight away in 1987 when we met. And I saw him actually about 10 days ago. And I was doing a job in a studio in West London called the Sound House, which is another lovely studio that I love working in. I was doing some English language recording, and I finished and was just about to go out the door, and Freddie, who's the studio manager there and misses everything there, she said to me, oh, you know Sylvester's in, do you? I said, no. She said, let's go and find him. So we walked into the studio and he was recording a something for Big Finish. And it was just great to see him again. And we keep in touch regularly. Yeah, so it really was a fantastic joy to work with him. And I learned such a lot from him.
and not with Doctor Who, because of the way fans have like developed over the years, and conventions have become like really popular, and because you're part of this show now. Well, you've been part of it for a while, not just now, but because it's been a big thing. What's conventions like as an actor? Because it'd be different to what convention goers like me or Jeff, whoever Jeff is.
Yeah, you and Jeff. Yeah, it's the other side of the camera, so to speak. Yeah, very good question. Well, for us, let's see, the first one I did, I can understand what it's like to be a fan, because it was at Imperial College in London, and it was my first taste of a Doctor Who convention. And I'd been asked along by the Doctor Who Appreciation Society. I had no idea what I'd let myself in for. And I arrived at this place and I kind of announced myself. It was before even my first story, Dragonfire, had gone out, so nobody knew who I was. And they took me into the green room at this convention, and over, sitting in the corner, I can see it now, was my Doctor, John Pertwee, the Brigadier, Nick Courtney, John Levine, Richard Franklin, Unit. I mean, it was just like, there was my childhood in the corner. And so I had this fan moment, and they took me over, introduced me, and I could hardly speak. I was so overawed by meeting them. So yeah, it's very different, because of course, what's wonderful, what I absolutely love about conventions is that meeting the other people, just like that, who were part of my childhood or who I didn't even know were in it, and who've now become great friends. Like, I mean, I was messaging Nicola just yesterday about something, and Bonnie, every time I see her, we have such a laugh. And all the companions, Janet and I, we've bumped into each other recently and just had a brilliant time together. Louise, we're all really happy for each other as well. Annika rang her up on her birthday. Oh, that reminds me, gosh, I must get in touch with Sarah, because she had an important birthday recently. Yeah, and it's funny because we're all very different people, but we all share this really big thing in our lives, and it is a big thing in all of our lives still. Likewise, the Doctors. I've been so lucky that I've met and worked with all the Doctors. Tom Baker, gosh, that was funny, because of course I was a bit overawed by him, because he's such an amazing, what a character. And we went to an American convention together. He didn't even really know who I was to begin with, and then we started talking, and we got on really well. And then a few months later, I went to do this job for schools radio, I think, at the BBC. And I had no idea who I was going to be with. And I walked into the foyer, and there was Tom. And the producer said, Tom, this is Sophie Aldred. She's going to be working with you today. And he put out his arms like this, and he's a big bloke. And he sort of folded me into his chest, and he said, yes, I'm thinking of adopting Sophie, he said. Yeah, really amazing. And obviously Peter, Colin, everybody, even the newer Doctors, well, the first time I worked with David Tennant was before he was the Doctor, and he did a big finish. He was a jobbing actor. I think he was doing something at the National Theatre, just a small part at the National Theatre in the evenings. Forgive me if it was a big part, David, but anyway. And he walked into the green room, and there was something extremely special about him, his presence. And we did a story called Colditz together, where he played a nasty Nazi. And so we had quite a lot of scenes together, and that was great to meet him then. And then, of course, he became Doctor Who, and then I worked with him on a cartoon called Tree Fu Tom, where he played my sidekick. So that was quite funny, really.
Yeah, and with the 60th anniversary, which is just like bizarre to even mention, because you wouldn't expect a small sci-fi show like this to have lasted so long, and with Russell T Davies returning and all these rumors flying around, because obviously if it was true you wouldn't be able to say anything, but do you reckon you would be up if you got asked to return for the 60s? Would you say yes?
Oh, I'd be in there like a shot. Yes, don't worry. I've been texting Russell at regular intervals, reminding him of my presence. So yeah, oh my goodness, I would absolutely love to be in some kind of, anniversary or something. That'd be great.
Yeah, and with you being in Big Finish, you have not only played Ace, you have also played a character in the Torchwood audios that I have got on my desk, but
yes,
so much of a mess I cannot say. Oh, here it is. Here it is. See, mess clears up easy. Here it is. Here it is.
There you go.
There you go. Without the flair, what was it like recording this? Because this is like completely different from Ace.
Yes. Well, this is Ace grown up. So this is what Ace became, who Ace became. She became Dorothy, and I think it was possibly inspired by the trailer for the season 26 Blu-ray, where Pete McTighe, who's such a talented man, he sent me this script out of the blue by email one day, and he said, "Would you be interested in being in the trailer for the Blu-ray? Have a read of this and tell me what you think." So I opened the attachment, read it, burst into tears, because it was really moving, very nostalgic the way he'd written it. And then we went and shot this in an office just opposite the Tower of London. Had an amazing day. Matthew Sweet was there. I was interviewed by him, and then we shot this sequence, and that gave me, it's all tied in. I will come back to Torchwood in a minute, but it's all tied in with to get together, because then when I was asked by Penguin to write a novel where Ace meets the 13th Doctor, this is what I thought of. I thought, this is who Ace has become. She's embraced her Dorothy, and she is, which is something Russell T Davies mentioned in one of the Sarah Jane adventures, that she's the CEO of a Charitable Earth, her charity, which is making a difference to people all over the globe, righting wrongs and doing exactly what she was doing with the Doctor. And then I got the call to do this episode of Torchwood, where that theme is taken on again a bit further. And it was brilliant, because we managed to record it again at the studio, the Sound House in West London. And I'd never met Paul before, Paul Clayton, and we hit it off straight away. I loved the script anyway. I thought it was great. It's so kind of it's clever, and it's very topical, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time doing that. So I'm rather hoping that there's going to be, like, we were a good double act. So I'm rather hoping there's going to be room for a few more of those.
And speaking of the box sets, which if I wheel a little bit, I don't know which way to wheel. I'm probably gonna. I'll move. I'll wheel this way. You can.
Yes.
I'll just move this. You can.
Oh, brilliant! Look at that collection.
Some of the box sets are there.
Yes, I can see.
Right, I'll put those down so I can wheel back.
Yes, amazing.
My daily exercise, this. Really. And with the box sets, what's it like recording the extras?
Oh, it's brilliant fun. Yes, particularly the behind the sofas and around the tables. That's been a pleasure to do. what's so lovely again is just getting together with the other actors on the show. And in some cases, particularly the stories that I have never seen before, like Peter's season, for example, and just trying to work out what the heck is going on, because of course you don't get the full episode either. Now, you call me call me a bit dim, but I didn't realise this to begin with.
Oh,
So I'm watching this episode and I'm thinking, now I know Doctor Who is often quite kind of convoluted and difficult to understand, but I'm quite clever at this and I really don't understand what's going on in this story, because it seems to kind of chop and change and cut. And then it was only when we had a break and I said, what happened between, and they said, no, you're only seeing the clips, you're only seeing the edited highlights and you're commenting on that. Because of course, silly me, otherwise we'd be there for days recording this stuff, you know? Especially the older series where they're doing these massive story arcs, you know. So that's been really, really good fun, actually. I've thoroughly enjoyed that.
Yeah, and I was speaking to my dad about it because I was on to my family, it seems, and I labelled it Doctor Who Does Gogglebox, which is what is even better about it, because Doctor Who is my favourite TV show of all time. My room's Doctor Who, and one of the best reality TV shows, if you call it reality, is Gogglebox, and merging them together is a perfect thing to do. And a lot of, I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but there's a Doctor Who YouTube channel that sort of does a similar thing to that, where they've got one episode playing across like the world technically, because one of them's American, and they watch this episode in a Gogglebox style. And that's what Behind the Sofa does really well, because Behind the Sofa, one, is amazing, looks amazing, and is amazing. It's like that could have its own DVD release itself. It didn't even need to be behind it. But when you did the roundtable, I was speaking to Chris Chapman, who's amazing, and that interview was hilarious, trying to edit clips with that because his child was just hilarious, storming at different points. But he said he got inspiration from the TV show I'll Pay for This. Have you ever seen that program?
Oh no, I haven't. No.
Well, that's what it's based off, and that is a concept in itself that works in its way, where there's challenges, and whoever loses is paying for the meal at the end of the night.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
For celebrities, so for instance, Richard Madeley's been on it, and if he lost, he would be paying for this meal, and everyone's been sabotaging each other and saying, "Oh, I'll get the most expensive food. I'll get the most. No, I'll get something that's even more expensive than any of you want, and one of you has to pay to be their own fault because they'll probably have to pay." And
I love that. That's great.
what Roundtable was inspired by, and that's when you watch the Roundtable, you can sort of see the similarities, and you can see how it's just amazing.
Chris is brilliant, and those ideas are fantastic, aren't they? Because as you say, they're enjoyable in their own right, and they're about Doctor Who. Yes, there's also Russell Minton, who's the executive producer, who's also a genius, and he's just brilliant at pulling it all together and making everybody so happy and getting on with each other. And yeah, it's a great team. And then you've got Paul Venezis, who's on the restoration team as well, and the whole crew are, well, not only are they really good at what they do, but they are also Doctor Who fans themselves. You've got Andrew Beach there sitting in the corner, who has been, he's been involved in the world of Doctor Who since the 70s. I think he was one of the founder members of the Doctor Who Appreciation Society. He was certainly president when I was doing Doctor Who. And what he doesn't know about Doctor Who isn't really worth talking about. He's got an amazing collection of Doctor Who costumes as well, and memorabilia. So yeah, anything. if we say, oh, what does that mean? You know, immediately you've got about 4 or 5 people who all go, oh, well, that's the da, 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 da. You know, they are so the whole of the Blu-ray boxes are backed up with this massive wealth of knowledge of all these people. It's amazing.
Wow. And the Blu-ray box sets themselves, I'll mention, they do look stunning because they're made by Lee Binding, and they're amazing. When you saw these covers for the first time, what was your reaction?
Do you know, it wasn't even so much the covers. I mean, the covers are incredible. It was the way that they're put together and what's included. So they're lovely to even hold, you know, these boxes. There's the sleeve that you pull off and then opening it up, and the way that everything's been thought of meticulously. You know, what is a fan really going to want to see? Well, they're going to want to have a bit of room to write, to have autographs on the covers. They're going to have to, you know, they want it nice so it looks great on the shelf, as witnessed by yourself behind you. They are going to want to have a quite a meaty insert that they could get signed as well, with lots of information. So, I mean, the whole package is, and the photographs that are chosen and the artwork is brilliant as well, because sometimes it's quite unusual stuff that you haven't necessarily seen before. So yeah, I was so impressed.
Now you mentioned quite a little bit ago, before we got sidetracked, about the Blu-ray box sets and how amazing they are, because you can't not talk about the Blu-ray boxes. You have to. But
Yeah.
you wrote your very own Doctor Who novel as Ace. Now, because I'm on Audible and I've got the little thing where you get the free credit every month, and I'm like, ooh, what do I get? I got the audio version, and I am planning to get the physical version in my collection. But there's so much Doctor Who, you can only buy so much. But I've got the audio book version, which you've read. Now, what was it like writing for Ace? Because when you were on Doctor Who, you weren't obviously writing for the character. And when I was interviewing Robin Stevens, he mentioned how you were getting fan letters as Ace, and you had to write as Ace. What was it like with all that knowledge and with all that the character comes with? What was it like writing for Ace in this novel?
Yeah, great question. Well, it was really much easier than I thought it would be. I think because I know the character so well. You know, she's such a part of my life and such a part of possibly even who I am as a person. So, I mean, I wrote it with Mike Tucker and Steve Cole, who also, I mean, Mike was right there at the beginning of Ace as well in the visual effects department. So he and I go a long way back. He has written for Ace on many occasions. I've read his audiobooks as well. So the three of us had a very good understanding of where we wanted to go with it, of where I wanted to go with it, of where I was able to tell them about the trailer that we'd just shot, the ideas that I had, the kind of style that I wanted to portray. So actually, I mean, apart from the actual slog of sitting down and doing it, which is, I have to say, writing is not my favorite thing. I love being with people. That's part of why I'm an actress, is I love working and creating and building something with people, which is why I'm so grateful that Mike and Steve were there as well. Because it's a lonely process, I think. And when you get stuck, you know, there's no, you have to bail yourself out, you know. So yes, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm so glad that the book exists, you know. I'm really glad, and it was great to do the audio, because in fact what had happened was that it hadn't finally gone to print. So I was able to correct some typos and kind of work out a few more bits actually as we were going along, which not many people get to do. It's really funny, you know, that about typos. I've noticed however many times I read a script and I prepare it in my head, or I do a lot of audiobooks. So I can read it, I can prepare it, I could got my eye pen out and underlining and putting all the, and then it's not until I'm actually reading it out loud that I notice a lot of the typos. It's really strange. I think the brain processes differently when you're reading to yourself than when you're reading out loud.
And a lot of people who might be listening to or watching this, I bet you better be watching this rather than listening to it, because you rather see our faces.
And you've put your lovely suit on as well.
And so for people out there that might be budding authors, how long did it take you to like write it from cover to cover, as they say in the book?
Well, yeah, we had to deliver it. I think it was 6 months, which is it's a very short lead time. Maybe it was even less. I can't remember. July. Yeah, it was possibly even less. Now that's not something that you really want. I don't know, but I think most authors get more time to write their books, and I think it obviously depends on what you're writing as well. But it's again, I think it's probably like being an actor. You know if you're a writer or not.
Yeah.
It's like if you know you're an actor, you know.
Yeah. And with the book being popular, with as in it's mega, but everywhere you look, you see people reading it because it's such an amazing book. Are you glad with the reception, the feedback you've been given, because it's not necessarily in your like comfort zone, as they say?
Yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled, because what I really want to do with all the Doctor Who stuff I do, with Big Finish, with everything, with Torchwood, is to provide something that's going to be pleasurable for the fans and be something that they can really treasure. And it wasn't just about the story even, or the writing. I love the whole look of it. Again, I'm quite into design, as you probably gathered by me talking about the box sets, but I did go through a bit of the cover they came up with, luckily, was something I was really keen on. We wanted it to look a bit like a sort of girl on the train type cover. And I was delighted what they came up with. We had a bit of about the at childhood's end, because we wanted it to spell ACE, obviously, and initially it was ACE under each other, and that didn't look quite right. So we had a bit of changing about of that, but I love the look and the feel of the book as well.
And so going back to conventions now, because I don't know if you've been asked this before, but it's always intriguing, because I can probably say about there's like thousands upon thousands around the world of fans of this show, and when they come to conventions, they bring things for you to sign, not always the things you expect. But what's the craziest thing a fan has given you to sign?
Oh, well, this has got to be, I was at a small convention and there was an auction, and I'd given a few photographs and things to sign. And the auction was for charity. It was for a very good cause. I can't remember which one. That's another thing about Doctor Who fans. I mean, gosh, if you could count up the amount of money that Doctor Who fans have raised over the years for charity, it would run into millions and millions, wow. I think. Anyway, so I'm sitting in the green room and it's lunchtime and they're doing the auction. And all of a sudden, somebody runs into the green room and says, "We haven't got any more auction items left. Is there anything anyone's got?" And at that moment, he was looking around and I was holding my cheese and tomato roll. And he just went, oh, that'll do. And he took my plate with the cheese and tomato roll. And that was auctioned off. I think somebody paid 50 quid for this half-eaten cheese and tomato roll. Anyway, I felt sorry for the guy, so I signed it for him. And then the next day, because it was an overnight thing, he came up to me rather shamefaced and he said, is there any chance that you could sign something else for me? And I said, well, what happened to the roll? And he said, I got drunk and I ate it.
Wow.
And then there's another one, and I know definitely where I was for this one. It was down on the south coast, and we were in this hall, and I was on the stage with Colin Baker, so I could see the queue snaking down to the doors. And this guy comes up, and he's got a little piece of paper, about this big, a little square of paper. He thrusts it in front of me, and he says, "Sign there." And I said, okay. And he said, make sure you sign it in the lines. And I said, oh, yeah, all right. Come on, okay, calm down. Anyway, so off he went. And a couple of hours later, I'm looking out again and I see this same bloke in the queue. And I think, oh, he's got something else for me to sign. Anyway, slowly makes his way up to the front of the queue. And then he gets to the front of my table and he whips off his T-shirt. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on here? And he turns around and he's got this patch over his shoulder like this. And he said, I've had that tattooed on my shoulder. And what he'd done was he'd gone, no wonder he wanted it nice and neat inside. He'd gone straight off with this bit of paper that I'd signed to a tattoo parlor. And he'd had it tattooed on his shoulder.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Wow. We went from someone eating some, I wouldn't even taste nice, eating something that then had pen on it.
It did have gold pen on it. Yeah, I was a bit worried for him for a minute.
If he, I don't know if the boat used his mouth, but next time he drinks in his mouth, I would be seeing all this gold, thinking, where's that coming from? Because not every piece of gold is edible. I know there's edible gold in the food when you make it, but
yeah,
definitely not from a
I know. And lucky he wasn't an old Cyberman either. That wouldn't have done him any good.
Oh. So one thing that fans also love, I'm not one of them because I'm not the best at coming up with accurate costumes, but what was it like wearing the Ace bomber jacket?
Oh yeah, well, I'm very proud of that, really proud, because it was my idea. So when they said, oh, what do you think Ace would wear? It was Andrew Cartmel, our script editor. We'd have conversations about what kids would wear and things. So I went off and I looked in various magazines and I thought, okay, so this is what the kids are wearing. And I saw a couple of photos of these girls wearing these black flight jackets, nylon flight jackets from, sort of army surplus or whatever, with badges and safety pins all over. So I took these pictures in as sort of references to the costume designer. And he said, yeah, that's a really good look. So we went off and bought all the bits and bobs and put it all together. And I was really pleased with it, particularly seeing as often on location, it's freezing cold when you're filming. Boy, was I glad to have that jacket, because then I could hide a hot water bottle underneath it, or an extra pair of thermals, or an extra jumper. So yeah, I was always very proud of that jacket.
Yeah, and so I need to remember this. Last week, I was to prepare for this interview. I did a few things. One, I bought some of the more audios. One, because I get away with it, because if it's an interview, I can buy whatever I like. Well, obviously I have to not spend too much money, but I can buy audios just because it looks like it's research, and half the time it's not really. It's just my collection.
It is. It's research, everyone.
And so because I have the best streaming service on planet Earth, BritBox, that has glorious episodes of Doctor Who on it, I decided to rewatch one of my favourite stories of all. Even though John Pertwee is my second favourite Doctor, the best story of all time is Destiny of the Daleks. What was it like filming that? And is that baseball bat real? Is it like a foam, or is it like proper?
Oh, Remembrance of the Daleks. There's so many. Yeah, there's so many of the Daleks, aren't there? No, I forget myself. Yeah. So Remembrance of the Daleks was my first story as the assistant on my own. So that was very special for me. And that sequence where I beat up the Dalek with the baseball bat, I mean, little did I think when we were doing that it was going to go down in history and be my sort of signature scene. I loved it. I have to say, I loved it. We rehearsed it in the studio in the rehearsal studio with the stunt coordinator. And so I kind of knew the layout. I knew what it was going to be like. But actually on the day, when we filmed it in that real deserted lab, the benches, it was so realistic. And it was just brilliant fun. It was a real metal baseball bat. So it hurt because I had to whack the eye stalk, which is metal as well. And then I did all the diving under the bench and all the jumping on it and stuff. What I hadn't realised was that they were going to set otter and Bunsen burners and things. So that was very exciting. And then just at the end, before they reset, we finished that take, and it could only be one take. That's the thing about a stunt. You can really only do it once, or it's a pain in the butt for production because they've got to reset the whole thing. So we rehearsed a lot, and then I did it. And then the stunt coordinator, Tipping, came over to me and he said, right, sit down, get your breath back, because you've been through, with the amount of adrenaline that's gone through you, you've been through the equivalent of a small car crash. So I sat down. He said, I'm going to tell everybody to go for a cup of tea. I'll go and get you a cup of tea, but just sit here on your own, get your breath back, get your heart rate back down. And he was right. I was like buzzing like this. And everybody left. And then suddenly I heard this little sound. I heard this. It was like, oh, what's that? I heard, and I looked round. I couldn't for the life of me see where it was coming from. And then I heard this little voice, muffled voice going, excuse me, could somebody let me out of here, please? And it was the poor guy in the Dalek. And everybody had completely forgotten about him. They'd all gone for tea and left him in the corner in the Dalek. And poor guy, because he must have, obviously he had all that whacking going on. He couldn't see a thing. He was like, yeah. So I felt sorry for the poor guy.
Wow. That's good. That is, you would just be so apologetic. You wouldn't stop apologizing to him forever. So,
I know.
So now, because you're knowledgeable, right? Imagine this is the first figure I had on me, so it's a Dalek, but let's imagine this is the next companion. Let's call it Samantha.
Okay.
No one knows why, and no one knows why it's a Dalek, but it's on.
Is it a friend of Jeff at the beginning of the interview?
Yeah, it's a friend of Jeff. It's Jeff's half sister.
Yeah.
And she was going to be the next companion. What advice would you give Samantha?
Well, Sylvester would say, learn your lines and don't bump into the monsters. And I think that's quite good advice, really. No, I would say, seriously, I would say, remember every moment, because this will be the defining job of your life. You will love this, and it will be hard work, but really make the most of every moment and take every opportunity that comes your way.
And so, for because Doctor Who is now at a point where the popularity is like skyrocketed, and the new series was amazing, fantastical, and it's like new fans are like sprouting up here, there, everywhere. What do you get many young like younger than me, like 10 year, let's say at the benchmark 10-year-olds coming up to you talking about Ace?
Yes, and that's what's been the most wonderful thing about the series coming back and gaining in popularity, because there was a time when there weren't 10-year-olds around who were coming up. I remember, a tragic moment in my life was I went to open a new museum somewhere in the southwest, and they had a Dalek at the top of the stairs. It was a regular museum. And I opened the museum, and then I was doing a signing up the stairs, and I could hear this child coming up the stairs with their mum, looking at the Dalek at the top of the stairs and going, "What's that, mum?" And it just broke my heart, because I just thought, whoa, there's this whole generation of kids who are growing up not knowing what a Dalek is, you know? So now, what's brilliant is when I do signings and conventions and so on, there's a lot of families who come up to the tables, and a lot of, and then also a lot of younger people who've started watching Jodie or whoever, and who've then realised, oh, there's nearly 60 years of this stuff going on, and it's all available. It's, as you mentioned, BritBox, and it's on DVD, and it's accessible, and people can get hold of it again. Because don't forget, for many years it wasn't possible to access Doctor Who. So now it's readily available, and younger people can watch it, and they love it just as much. They love the classic series just as much, which gobsmacks me, but I'm not complaining.
And with as you said there was a period which fans have adopted the words the wilderness years, which already sounds like a Doctor Who series waiting to be made in Big Finish. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Nicholas.
Yes.
I'm not really going to wink in, so I just made some form of...
You do the nudging, I'll do the winking.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. And so with that, UK TV Gold, which is what it was called at the time, now just Gold, that's the only place you can watch Only Fun and Horses, because it's on all the time, and you've seen that episode 4 times already, but you've decided to watch it again. But if you've already seen it 4 times in the same day. But anyway, other than track, I'll complain about that on a different video in a different channel. I've got places to complain. But a lot of fans...
Good, glad to hear it.
A lot of fans watched it on UK TV, like a lot of young ones that were around before I was, because I was born in 2004. Even though I was around for VHSs, and I've still got VHSs downstairs, and you can only briefly see there's some VHSs up.
Oh yes, I can spot the bottoms of some VHSs.
Or behind me.
Yes.
I remember where I put them now. There. And so, what did you ever watch yourself back when it was on UK TV Play?
I never watched it because I didn't have those sorts of channels, because I don't know, to be honest, I'm not a huge TV watcher. So actually, I haven't watched myself back that much. I've watched, obviously, when people are screening it at conventions and things. It was a thrill to me to watch the remastered Curse of Fenric a few years back on the big screen at the BFI. That was amazing. And I'm not one of these actors who goes, "Oh, I never watch myself." I can understand why people don't want to.
Yeah.
But I love it as a learning opportunity, and also I'm really proud of what I did, especially with Ace. And it's funny, I was watching recently something, a bit of Doctor Who, a bit of Ace, and there's some way that again you can see all the presenting stuff I used to do as well. It's coming on YouTube and things like that. I seem to be able to separate me, Sophie, from that on the screen,
Yeah.
whoever that is.
Yeah.
And so I'm very lucky that I don't mind watching myself. And as I say, I use it to learn and to think, oh, that didn't work. I'm not hard on myself so much as an actor. I am in other ways, but I can look at something and I can go, that doesn't work, rather than, oh no, you got that wrong, you know.
Yeah, and it's interesting because over the last year I've interviewed. Last year was 23 people, which is shocking to my amount.
Wow, amazing.
I did my first ever interview in 2020. I never interviewed anyone in my entire life, but hey,
Oh, good for you.
and with that, you learn how the difference of like all the ones that watch themselves back, don't watch themselves back, and because I'm also a what's the term, like inspiring actor. I make really rubbish comedy skits and sitcoms and do as much as I can be to be in stuff I make. And I watch myself back because it's one, funny, and two, because it's interesting. And when you're in a popular TV show like that, it's interesting to know that you watch yourself back, because it is something to be proud of to be in this. And it's also rather exciting that you watch yourself on TV with millions of others, or millions of people have seen it. And it, because they also mentioned within the new series that they watch themselves back because they've not actually seen it how it airs because of all the CGI.
That's right. Yeah.
Was it similar for you? Did when you watched it back, did it look a little bit different to how it looked when you were filming it?
Yeah, that's a really good point. It wasn't so much obviously as now, because the CGI is incredible, but there were lots of things that we didn't know what it was, quite what it was going to look like. But I think more than that, for me, was the order of the story, because of course we were filming out of story order, like you do. You film all the scenes in the school lab in Remembrance of the Daleks together. So we do the stunts, the beating up the Dalek with the baseball bat. Then we do the mothership arriving and the windows blowing in with the unit team. Then we do everything there. Then we'd move to another location. So by the time we'd finished filming, I'd kind of forgotten the story, and then to see it as it hung together as a story was like, oh yeah. And it's actually quite hard to watch it as a story, because I know what I was thinking and what went behind what was going on in those particular scenes. So you have to sort of almost suspend your disbelief and watch it as a story. Yeah.
Now, coming towards the end of this interview, because I don't keep track of time, I'm not the best timekeeper, so hopefully we've been going for an hour. I don't have a watch on either, so I wouldn't even be able to tell you that. But
I like the way that you looked at your watch, even though you didn't have one on.
Yeah, because it's I don't know why people do that, but it's like, oh, it's past, no clue. And so with BFI being the best thing, well, I say the best thing in the world, it's a dream, one of my many dreams, because every night you sleep and you dream, obviously, but one of my many dreams is to go to the BFI South Bank, but because I don't live that side of Britain, it's not as accessible for me just to nip down and spend there. But because they are showing some of the Blu-ray box set, you can sort of see Blu-ray box sets and animation, which are also behind there. I don't know where to point. Which story would you like to see shown at the BFI South Bank?
Oh my goodness. Let's see. Well, from the ones that have already been made, I think I'd like to see Survival, actually, because Survival, like you were saying about CGI, and what we used to call it in those days was paint box.
Yeah.
And I think some of the vistas that were created for the planet, where the cheetah people planet, where the master is, and there's these two moons, and there's a wonderful sky, and I'd love to see that on a big wide screen.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that would look amazing. Mm.
And now because we're getting to the finer details now, with I've just got it down, with Big Finish and being with what fans want to see next once they've finished with the TV animation is animating Big Finish stories. Which story out of the ones you've done would work really well in some form of animation?
Gosh, well, two spring to mind. The first one that I can think of is The Harvest, which is where the character of Hex was first introduced. I'm just seeing in my mind's eye an animation of it's a Cyberman story, and I'm just seeing Cybermen sort of pounding down the embankment outside St Thomas's Hospital in London. So there's that. And then the other one that I think would lend itself very well, and this goes back to a brilliant cartoonist called Raymond Briggs. I don't know if you know. He's the one who behind the Snowman.
Oh yeah.
He also did a fantastic book called When the Wind Blows, which was about a nuclear holocaust, and it's a beautiful book. You should try and get hold of it. It's very sad and very very thoughtful. It's about a little old couple sitting in their house and dealing with a nuclear explosion. And that reminds me of a story I did again with Philip Olivier with Hex called Protect and Survive, which is a brilliant story, which would actually also lend itself very well to TV anyway.
Yeah.
But it's about nuclear winter, and Protect and Survive was the government guidelines for what to do in the event of a nuclear war or nuclear explosion, which was hopelessly kind of inefficient. And nowadays, you look back and you think, oh my goodness, how can they possibly have thought that would work? But I just think that would work in a kind of quite a macabre way.
Yeah.
Really well.
Now, coming towards the end of this interview with some beautiful final questions to get some beautiful, fluttering final answers. Now, with recently, as in like just before Christmas, Jack Reeves, who is a brilliant YouTuber, did a program. I say program, it's like you could call YouTube TV if you like, but if whatever. And he did a series called Doctor Who: The Community Show, where he highlights the highs and all the best bits of the Doctor Who community, from fan films, fan audio, fan art, fan costumes, interviews, like some of the ones that are like fantastic at Dalek impressions, well, with help from technology and things. But what's your favourite, because you're massive now, what's your favourite part of the community?
I think my favourite part is, well, for me personally, sounds a bit corny, but if making a difference to people. And if I can go to a Doctor Who convention and make somebody feel good about themselves and about life, then I think that's job done.
Yeah, that's very nice to hear, because that's what people want from these people, that makes them laugh, make them cry, cries in like cries of happiness, cries of, oh, that seems really emotional.
Yes, good crying.
Yeah, it's not like you've said something really horrible and you've made them cry.
Yeah.
It's not like little Timmy in the corner who's crying.
Yeah, there's nothing like a good cry, is there?
Yeah. A good cry. It's like when you watch a romantic film, or if you're watching an episode of Doctor Who and that Dalek is doing such a good performance, it made you weep. Yeah, which is a bizarre thing. But with recent news, and because because I run 8 YouTube channels, don't ask why, because I don't know either. I recently made a video on the news about the potential news about the stop doing animations. What's your thoughts on that as an actor, actress, and as a fan of Doctor Who? What's your opinions on the fact that potentially animations could stop coming?
Well, I'm a huge fan of animation. I think that's great, and keep them coming is what I say. If it's all to do with budgets, isn't it? That's the problem. There's got to be A, the money, and B, the market. So if people keep buying them, and if they're popular, then it'll go ahead. I mean, I what I like to see is as much Doctor Who stuff going on as possible, because the thing is, then everybody is happy, because there's something for everyone then. So yeah, whatever works best for the most people.
And so with Doctor Who currently off air, as I'll say, because the Legend of the Sea Devils will be airing later this year, and with all the DVDs, Big Finish, BritBox, BBC iPlayer, Stan, Who, wherever it is around the world, and we've got so much Doctor Who. In your field, which is massive, have you got anything exciting that you're allowed to say that's upcoming within the Doctor Who universe?
Yes and no. I can't say anything about it. Isn't it annoying? You can never say anything, can you?
Yeah, you're under NDA.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, yes, there's a few. I don't even know when it's gonna. Anyway, I'm working on something at the moment. A little thing. I mean, I don't want to get. That's another thing. I don't want to get people too excited either, because then people will go, "Oh my God, she's going to be back on screen," you know.
Yeah.
But I literally can't say anything about it. So how boring is that? Well,
this has been a fantastic interview. It's been a delightful interview, because it's like the moment I got this interview, I was like, wow. I was shocked. I was flabbergasted. But whenever people asked, have I got any upcoming interviews, I was suave and sophisticated. I'm like, yeah, I've got one. Yeah, I'll not just casually got one. And because you are everywhere, where can people find you? Like, not like your house address. You don't want to be like half an hour saying, "Hello, are you there?" Like, where can they find you that isn't your house address?
Yeah, well, I'm on social media. If you put Sophie Aldred into Google, my website basically has all my Twitter address and my Facebook and all that. So yeah, go to my website, which is sophiealdred.com, and then you'll find everything that you need to find there.
And there you go. The interview of a lifetime, as fans would say, and I would say. We've had highs, we've had lows, we've even had me do some exercise and
chucking your stuff around. Yeah. Great.
Well, to be fair, my room's not the tidiest. You can see Doctor Who.
Oh, it looks pretty tidy to me.
Yeah, well, it's took a while, because over there I've got like Doctor Who, Radio Times, and an issue of Beano, because there was a YouTuber in it, and you were Dennis the Menace.
Of course, yeah.
Before Christopher Johnson, who's another long-lasted Doctor Who fan. And so we will wrap it up there, because we've all got other things. We don't want to be here for 4 hours. I don't know why I looked at. I keep
that invisible watch is doing really well tonight.
Yeah. So, if a fan of Doctor Who said to you now, what piece of advice would you give them, as just in like a random piece of advice? What advice would you give them?
Make the most of everything of your life.
There we go. That's a very see people crying now. You can you can see that old woman, Doris, 86, crying her eyes out now, because it's words of wisdom. I'm weird sometimes, but hey ho, We live, we learn. So, in the Tom Mason universe coming up, I have something special that's being worked around, right? That's for the weird side, the third channel. Tom's Comedy Club will get something soon. I'm just working that out. And Taskmaster World, which is having a few delays with a special video. I tried to edit it today. It's a huge mess. Ugh. Subtitles noise. Ugh. And I have a special something happening. So the return of Taskmaster World, the podcast, will be happening. But as I always say, stay tuned. The best place to stay tuned is TGen Productions on Facebook and all my others, and Twitter, because that's where you'll probably find it. You probably got this interview from Twitter because it's going to be globally famous, like Alex Sloan was, but this is going to be even more famous because more people have heard of Sophie Aldred and Doctor Who. They all connect in a universe. But anyway, guys, before my head explodes with multiverse and universal connections and timelines and other Doctor Who nonsense, I would like to say thank you to Sophie Aldred for this fantastic interview, and thank you for letting me have this time with you to talk about the best show on planet Earth.
Oh, it's a pleasure, Tom. It's been really good fun. Thank you.
And thank you guys for watching and listening. Hopefully you enjoyed. Please do tell me that it was amazing, because it was amazing, and I can guarantee it was amazing. And when I come to edit it, the way it looks will be outstanding, because why make something brilliant and make it look awful? But anyway, guys, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. Hopefully have the podcast logo fixed on Apple very soon. Thank you guys for watching. Time out. I don't know what happened with my voice there. Let's go again. Time out. Bye.